This segment is really not a political one. There may be some political undertones to the idea of companies scamming people, fucking people over financially, like, don't get me wrong. But in general, overtly speaking, there's not much political to this segment. This is just personal for me. This is a completely personal segment. I am here to rant about something that makes me mad, alright? If you know me, then you know I love me some zombies. I love The Walking Dead. I love World War Z. I love really anything zombie related. I tend to love, not because of zombies itself, but the idea of zombies and a zombie apocalypse is definitely something that gets me on a base level. And so, as you can imagine, a game that I've always loved, as far back as it has had before it even had its own standalone game, when it was just a mod for Arma 2, was DayZ. A game that allowed you to play as just a random survivor and to go out into a massive world, fight zombies, run into players, kill them or ally with them, take their loot, whatever you want to do. And it was so fun, but so unpolished, barely functional in many cases. DayZ has gotten better, but it's still a far way off from where it should be by now. And because of that, people who've wanted a proper zombie open world multiplayer game that just centers around the idea of looting and building up a character via just a loot progression and surviving, a little bit, really what people want is Project Zomboid, but as like a third-person over-the-shoulder or first-person survival game rather than a isometric, camera-facing down type deal. I love me some Zomboid, but people really want a game with Zomboid's level of detail and polish, I guess you could say, but it's like a third-person over-the-shoulder thing. And so without getting too deep into explanation that's already going to be shown, you can imagine I and a lot of other people were really excited when a game called The Day Before was announced and showcased with a gameplay video. This game looked too good to be true. And it ended up being, yeah, exactly that, too good to be true. The company called Fantastic advertised this zombie game as being literally everything that everyone dreamed DayZ should be, and they were just this studio no one's ever heard of coming out of nowhere. At first there was overwhelming positivity, but eventually people started to see some fishy things, from seemingly reused assets, blatant copying of one-to-one shot recreations from other game and movie trailers for seemingly no reason, not even there as an Easter egg, just there for some reason, including things such as locations in the game that are shown off in gameplays being ripped straight out of movies and TV shows. It's just, everything about it seems so fake. You know what I mean? Nothing was new, and nothing was real. It had this air of fakeness to it, and so there was a big argument with the majority of people saying it's probably fake, but at the same time they're still curious enough to try it and see if it ends up being real, because if it ended up being real, it was a big deal. And this was so big that it became the _1 most wish-listed game on Steam. And then the game came out, and it was a massive scam. Like a massive scam. Whatever that final product we got was, I would love if the day before, like a dev or an employee at a Fantastic that's left the company could give us like leaks on that version of the game that we got to tell us how long they took on it. Because I wouldn't be surprised if they spent a month on it. Because it's not a real game. It was vaporware. The game was what's called vaporware, a non-existent program that is advertised as real, and it looks real, but when you actually get your hands on it, there's nothing there. And it was so bad, Steam banned the company, issued refunds to everyone who bought the game, and delisted it off the marketplace. The company was forced to shut down. However, there is a new page being added to this story. You can imagine I was very, very upset. And yes, these were a Russian company, by the way. As you can imagine, I was very upset that we didn't get this DayZ successor that the gaming community so deserves at this point. But I at this point have turned my anger into sort of laughter. You know, I've learned to find this situation funny, and that's why I'm keeping up with it. I genuinely didn't expect we'd ever hear of Fntastic again. I figured they took the money and ran, but here we are in 2024. They have returned to the internet, and you're not going to believe this, they're asking for your money. They have returned to the internet with an apology and a request for your money. So I've got a Force Gaming video here. I love me some Force Gaming. Really good channel for gaming news stuff. Doesn't dip into the anti-woke stuff and really just likes to cover stuff about gaming news. You know, he just does the job. And I really like his videos. So if you aren't already subbed, I highly recommend you check him out. But he made a video about this, and I haven't seen it yet. But I do know a few of the details discussed in this video, and I am excited to rant because, God, just thinking about this project and how it never came to be and it didn't end up being what it was advertised still gets me upset. It still makes me angry to this day.
Do you remember Fntastic, the company behind the notorious zombie survival game flop of 2023, the day before? Yes, that day before, the game I was raising concerns about since its initial reveal.
So as you can see, if you've ever played DayZ or like watched gameplay of DayZ, just from looking at it, you can see this game, what this game was supposed to be, Mogs DayZ. Like, hard Mogs DayZ.
Trailer in early
People were excited.
Having looked into the development studio, their poor track record of failed games, coupled with a trailer that looked leagues above anything they had done, something about it just didn't seem right. Then, in the following years, a lot of red flags popped up, including more trailers that were clearly vertical slices and predominantly full of store-bought assets, their heavy inspiration pulled from other games, like shot compositions and even the game's logo, their use of
Dude, before the game came out, me and Ethan argued for like an hour
like shot composition
about whether or not these two gas stations are the same, like are basically an asset flip. I argued that maybe it's not a literal asset flip, as in like they took the files and just straight ripped them and put them into their game for the trailer, but that they at least copied it to an insane degree. This is Life is Strange 2, the gas station that the brothers come across. And then this is the gas station in that one Day Before trailer. Like, that is... I mean, the sign, the paneling of wood, the green posts. There's different gas pumps. This one is decorated for Christmas, this one for Halloween. But besides that, the similarities are striking. Like, a lot... This is what I meant when I said it felt weirdly fake, you know? Like, the locations seemed like they were either ripped out of a free store that was meant to have assets that look the same as ones in popular games, or that they were trying to recreate familiar locations in popular games to evoke a sort of subconscious nostalgia in their market base, you know? In that same way that you'll see, like, scam mobile games or whatever in, like, ad sidebars on websites, and it's, like, it'll be a character that you can tell is, like, some kind of parody of a licensed character that's popular. And it's, like, just some freemium mobile game they're advertising, and it's, like... It's, like, super, like, Wish... I don't know, it'll be, like, Wish Aragorn or something. You know, it's, like, a fake Lord of the Rings thing, right? Just for example, it reminds me of the same kind of tactic those sorts of scam games use. I wonder if there's like a name for that in psychology. There's gotta be, right? Like in the world of study of scams and grifts and whatnot, what is the practice of evoking familiar imagery to licensed characters to convince someone to buy a product that is not associated with that license? Or World of Warcraft, they'll do that with that too. I've seen for like freemium mobile games, everything looks like WoW but isn't WoW. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there's like, I really do wonder if there's like a psychological name for that. There should be if there isn't.
in the game's logo, their use of unpaid development labor, whom they
Yeah.
refer to as
A really good example here is the game's logo. The Day Before's logo is just the same font, text, and format as The Last of Us. Things like that is what I'm talking about here, like subconsciously prodding some nostalgic node somewhere that you'll not even recognize, like, oh, wait, that's the Last of Us font if someone doesn't, like, point it out. But, oh, associative marketing. Oh, that is what it's called. Thank you, Calico Callie. I've already heard of that before as well. Thank you for reminding me. Calico Callie, you are goated for that. Associative marketing. No, that's a real thing. They're, like... I'm pretty sure that's real. No, that is a real thing, Calico Callie. I've heard that term before, and I think you might be a little off on the wording, but you're close.
Volunteers, their marketing bait and switches where they would promise to reveal info about the day before, but instead announced another game, Prop Night, or their teams.
So that's one of the reasons why people were still somewhat hopeful this game could be real. Both me and Ethan had a friend who played the shit out of Prop Night. And Prop Night was apparently pretty good, especially when it first came out. And, oh yeah, my camera's gone. I forgot. I made it go away so you could see the point I was making before. We had a friend that played Prop Night when it was a thing, and they claimed Prop Night was really good, and so we figured, okay, well, if we've got a friend who's played and really likes a, somewhat successful game that came from this studio, then maybe the claims that it's a scam aren't true. And, I was a little hopeful for a while there, but as we got closer, man, the evidence got too overwhelming to ignore.
Equivalent collaboration app called Continent. The trademark disputes over the name the day before, which resulted in the game's removal from Steam, and they denied any knowledge of, them announcing a release date and then delaying it 5 times over the course of 2 years, and then eventually, when the trademark issue got resolved, the game returned to Steam and did actually see a release on December 7th, 2023, and that launch, if you recall, was a...
I am still hoping that some real studio, like an actual competitive indie studio, has seen the overwhelming success of the idea of the day before. Like, it was a completely fake game, complete vaporware, and it still topped the wishlist charts on Steam. That has to be telling developers, both AAA and indie, that if they can put together a solid team to make just a giant open world playground for players to progress a character through looting and gear, and to, like, just have in-game proximity chat, some basic base building. You can even just add features over time. As long as it is a somewhat feature-complete, polished product on release, you can add content over time. That's fine, but it needs a base level of polish and playability on launch. And if a AAA studio or even an indie studio can pull this off and make it better than DayZ, a better engine is a good start, by the way. It really wouldn't be hard to do this with a better engine. If they can do that, then millions. They will get millions. It's easy millions. If I had a game studio, if you could give me a game studio to be the head of and a budget to make, like, I don't know, like a mid-tier, like a mid-budget AAA game, I would make that, and there would be millions in returns over years, over decades. It would be a long-term, like, profit. It would be insane, especially if it was constantly supported. I don't know how any studios haven't figured this out yet. Hopefully, the day before changes that, and we get a real game.
A complete and utter disaster. The game was not even remotely what they said it was going to be. Instead of getting an open world zombie survival MMO, what we saw was a fairly small extraction game that was also extremely bare bones, lacking many expected features. And
they advertised it. Okay, he's not even going deep enough into detail to emphasize, like, how much of not a game it was. They advertised it, and I quote, as an open world zombie survival MMO. What it ended up being was, if there was ever supposed to be a game there at all, is it was an extraction shooter with a lobby where a server of up to 24 people, that's right, that is the max amount of people that could be on a server, a maximum of 24 people could both be either in the hub, which was like an area with some like shops and stuff, or out in the city where you could go out and get loot and then extract to sell it inside of one of the hubs. This sounds fun in concept. The problem is the game itself had absolutely nothing going for it. There was loot just in really odd places. For one, like, because everything is a store-bought asset flipped from the store after like 10 seconds, the map is really badly designed. So since there's no jumping, if you walk off the edge of some sidewalks, you're in like a little moat along the side of the road that is literally impossible to get out of. Like if you walk off the side of like a sidewalk into like a 4-foot ditch, because you can't jump or vault in the game, you're just stuck. There's no way out. The city was flipped off of a free map on a store. It wasn't made for the character movement that they built for the game. So it was nothing but stolen assets, stolen code. Not stolen, I should say. Free flipped assets from a store in Unreal Engine and Unreal 5. So it looks good, don't get me wrong. It's Unreal 5 and all. But even the zombies, you'd think, well, okay, well, you're running around looting and killing zombies. How could this not beat DayZ? Like, even with what this game ended up being, how could this not beat DayZ? Well, the zombies, well, they do absolutely nothing. At least in DayZ, the zombies are a threat. In this, they stand there for about 10 seconds to let you, like, open up on them before they do anything. And this image here of 2 zombies is pretty representative of the most you'll ever see in one place. So you're never going to have, like, an overwhelming situation. And then on top of that, because the game wants to convince you, the game, quote-unquote, wants to convince you after you buy it not to refund it in the first 30 minutes while you're playing it, they play fake gunshot audio throughout the city. Mind you, this city map is all there is, and they showed off so many locations, like big, sprawling countrysides and stuff in the trailers, not even in the release of the game when it came out. But then on top of that, they took an audio file of like generic gunfire going off at different directions, and they put that into the game to play when you're out there in the world. So it sounds like there's hundreds of players around you shooting guns, just like maybe 12 people having a gunfight in the next block over, maybe 30 people raiding a place and killing a bunch of zombies 2 blocks over. And so you follow these noises, or what you think is the sound of these noises, and it's just barren, literally empty streets, but the sound of a war around you, right? And people have, like, I was switching between streamers when the game came out, seeing if anyone was actually running into players or anything, and one guy ran into a player and killed them. And rarely you would see a zombie, but for the most part, it was just like streamers slowly realizing that the gunshot noises are baked into the game to trick you into thinking there's more people out there. And then slowly people figured out how many people are allowed in each server and realized it was only 24, so it would be impossible for those noises to be from players. And just, it was all a facade meant to keep people from refunding the $40, if I remember right, $45 game before the 30-minute timer. But thankfully, Steam came in clutch and refunded everyone who bought the game, period. They didn't even need to request it. It's just an automatic refund, removed the game from the market, and delisted the game and removed the studio, banned them from Steam. So yeah, Steam was real for that. Recognized what this was, maybe a little late, but they did recognize it, and they dealt with it.
And mechanics. What was there, though, it was a complete mess, and frankly, it was just a bad game. The gameplay felt awful, the world was empty, not just of things to do or items to collect, but there were barely any other players or zombies either, and even with so little populating the environment, performance of the game was abysmal, with constantly fluctuating frame rates, stuttering, and massive spikes of server lag. And to top it all off, there were more bugs and glitches than I had seen in a game in a very long time. Zombies constantly getting stuck on the terrain, players falling through the floor into oblivion, character models vanishing, resulting in a decent number of invisible players.
Now, to be clear, these problems would have been fine if it wasn't obvious that the game was false advertised. Like, even if this was the game that we had gotten on release, if they had advertised it as this, I don't think people would have much of an issue. The problem is the first dead giveaway that this had been a scam, even if like you kind of were okay with what it ended up being, that like this was a shady practice before you slowly would realize that the whole game was fake, was the fact that it wasn't an open world. That like people were trying to go off into the countryside and realizing there are invisible walls and that you're stuck in this like relatively small city map. I mean, even here, if you look closely, this is a flat 2D cardboard cutout, basically. This is like a skybox, that skyscraper. So if you go down this road, that's the edge of the map. Was this one they also showed you could get supercars in it? Yeah, one of the trailers is a scene ripped straight out of I Am Legend with the scene where he's driving the sports car through the city. So yeah, there's supposed to be vehicles in this. I believe you can drive vehicles, but every feature down to the vehicle repairing and everything does not exist in the game. And if you do drive one, there was no audio, and they just kind of slid along the surface of the like pavement. They didn't even have like a spinning animation for the wheels, and so it was just a stationary car sliding around, and then if it hit anything, like if it hit a car or a bump or anything or a curb, it would flip because the physics aren't like coded to work. It's all just meant to look, if you're just looking at it, it's meant to look good. That's it. But once you actually physically play it and start doing things, you realize there's nothing there. It's just paint.
Running around, or animations constantly glitching out like the ever-expanding heads, or getting players stuck in poses even while they're moving. The result of all of this, not surprisingly, was that the game flopped hard with overwhelmingly negative reviews on Steam, reaching an impressively low 16% rating. And then 4 days after its launch on December 11th, Fantastic announced that they were ending support of the day before, but also that they were closing the studio. Valve, seeing this, then
So if you're wondering why it wasn't a 100% thumbs down like rating on the game, there was a big wave of positive reviews that came in, all of them simultaneously, seemingly bots. And do you want to guess what language those bot positive reviews were written in? Yep. You guys know. You guys know what language it was in.
Proactively shut down the game's store page and issued refunds to anyone who purchased it. The day before was officially dead, and Fantastic was gone as a studio, never to be heard from again. That was up until yesterday. They are back, ready to make games once more, and are asking for...
They're back, and as he's about to say, I imagine, they're asking for your fucking money. The absolute audacity of this company. It is amazing to me.
Your help, and by help, of course, I mean money, because they didn't get any money from sales of the day before, and they are promising that this time they're going to use it to make good games, that they won't abandon. Totally trust us. We've got a great track record. All right, so here's the story.
Mind you, this studio was so defensive in all of their public statements when criticized about the likelihood of the game being a scam before it came out, and they loved playing victim and getting hyper defensive, and then it turned out the game was a scam, and they just fucked off with the money and said like shit happens, and now they're back and they're all apologetic and asking for money so that they can prove the haters wrong once again. They're back to the proving the haters wrong line of narrative that they played for their own defense with back in the day.
On Thursday evening, out of nowhere, Fantastic posted the following tweet. Once you helped us create Fantastic through Kickstarter, today we need your help again to bring Fantastic back. Learn more and support us at fantastic.com. So heading over to the website reveals the game plan for what they are calling Fantastic 2.0, the revival of this beloved company, now with their hat in their hand, asking for your support. So how can you help them, you're wondering? Well, they've got a few ways to do so. Don't do any of this, by the way, in case it wasn't already obvious. Don't do this, all right? But first, they've got a Kickstarter that they've launched for their brand new game. It is...
So, maybe it's because it's a foreign company, but how has there not been a massive class action lawsuit or something against this, you know? Like, how is there not, like, just big lawsuits? What they've done has to be illegal, right? Is it not illegal what they've done? This got community noted? That's great. Hold on. Play free now, and then a Steam link to, we would like to address recent misinformation circulating online regarding the use of assets in our games. We want to make it clear that all assets used in the Day Before, Prop Night, and Escape Factory were either created by us or legally acquired. Whenever store-bought assets were used, we ensured that the proper licenses were obtained. For Escape Factory, we used assets for some of the VFX and a small part of the code. However, the art and music are 100% handcrafted by our team. We encourage everyone to fact-check before spreading misinformation. They love saying this. Fact-check before spreading misinformation when they're defending their scam stuff. Community note. Fantastic implies that the misinformation being spread is regarding their assets being stolen. However, no media coverage states that their assets were acquired unscrupulously, leading to a straw man argument. Yeah, no one claimed they stole the assets. That's why I corrected the person who worded it that way in chat. They did legally acquire these assets. Most of them were off of like a free asset store. That's what they mean when they say we paid the proper license. They got free assets off of a store where you're allowed to download them for free and not pay anything. So yeah, people like were able to identify everything down to the traffic cones where the company grabbed them off of a store for free. There wasn't a single. I think there was like 4 asset packs that were used that are paid, like for a total of $90 or $190 they spent in assets in the game. But besides that, it was all free assets. But they might have spent no more than $200 on a few asset packs. That's it. For the day before.
Called Escape Factory. This appears to be a Fall Guys inspired physics-based co-op game. As of this recording, the game has a total of 19 backers on Kickstarter and has reached $454 of their $15,567 goal. So first of all, I pray that those 19 backers are not.
So like when you wonder how are people still supporting Trump in 2024 after like millions of Americans, like if you're wondering that, just know that 19 people followed the company that scammed like the entire gaming industry, like all these gamers, like seek them out after they're like laughing off of the internet, and then proceeded to pay in order to make their next game a thing. I'm sure some of those backers might be fake, but at least a few of them are real. So if you ever wonder, how does Trump still have supporters? Ask yourself, how does this company still have financial backers after what they did? It's the same reason.
On anyone outside of the company. People, please do not fall for this again. But secondly, $15,000 to make a game? What? The game is actually already currently playable. There is a demo for Escape Factory available on the Steam page.
Oh, wow.
Personally, I refuse to download anything from this company ever again.
It's an
I
asset
simply
flip.
do not trust it on my computer at all. I was wondering, though, if there were people who were going to check it out, and turns out, yes, coincidentally enough, when I looked on SteamDB, it appears there is a total of 19 people playing the demo. Presumably, those are the exact same 19 people who also backed the Kickstarter. Now, there's a bunch of other info about the game.
Okay, they might be bots. All right. They might be bots.
Game on this page, including stretch goals. But I mean, come on, honestly speaking, who cares? This is clearly just another cash grab from a developer who has shown you time and time again that you should not support them. You are much better off supporting.
I'd be really curious if when you play the game, it's not even possible. Because if I'm noticing already,
This is clearly just another cash grab from a
like, unless this is a time-based puzzle where you're supposed to run through, like, what I'm guessing is either this game is so unchallenging that after about 5 seconds you realize there's no, like, value in playing it. It's just moving around a very unchallenging, like, barely constructed, like, obstacle course that doesn't even try to be hard, because they didn't even try to make it. Or it's going to be thrown together so badly that it's not even possible. I wonder which of these things is true.
developer who has shown you time and time again that you should not support them, you are much better off supporting this channel by taking a moment to watch today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. This is a food service that...
Listen, at least this is, like, presumably not a scam product. Dude, so many big YouTubers are sponsored by just these scam products. And I just have to cringe through their sponsored segments. But today we're skipping the sponsor because, I'm not sponsored by that company.
And for a brand new game, Fantastic
They
has
aren't
a
paying
few
me.
other ways you can help them out if you want to. Once again, please don't do it. But there's also a merch shop so you can rep your favorite game developer. What are they even thinking? Funnily enough, it looks like there's already a few items sold out. Apparently, the demand has been so...
Dude, could you imagine? My God, if I ever see someone wearing Fantastic merch, I think I'd ask them first if they're wearing it ironically. But after that, if they answer, no, I'm just a big fan of the company, I think that people gave them a hard time about the day before. YouTube won't let me say what I'd do.
so hot that they no longer have any hats or white t-shirts available for sale. I'm gonna fairly confidently say that this is BS, totally fake, and they're not actually sold out of anything, but are instead using this as like a means of creating some FOMO or something. Like, damn, those $20 hats are all gone. I guess I'll buy one of those $65 hoodies. Like, come on, guys.
They're selling like
Seriously,
hotcakes.
It's very strange and extremely hard to believe the development studio who had such a massive public failure has sold out of anything. There's only 19 people backing their new Kickstarter project.
Obviously, in the advertising, it was implied all of these buildings were explorable. In the full game's release, maybe every 10th building, like the first floor, 1 or 2 rooms, like the front like room where you enter on the ground floor, and like a closet are accessible. Everything else is just, just set dressing. So most of these buildings you can't enter at all, to be clear. It was advertised as if all of this is fully explorable and you could just snipe out of the rooftops or one of these floors of the building, and they heavily imply it with a lot of going into elevators and clicking on one of like 1,000 buttons in the trailers. But in reality, there's not even a single working elevator in the whole finished game when it released, if I recall right.
After all, unless they only had 19 hats and t-shirts available for sale. I guess that is the other possibility. I think they're fudging the quantities available to get you to think that people are buying this stuff. What's less interesting though than Fantastic's current attempts at making money off of you are their updated mission statement and explanations for past failures. So they say here, everyone deserves a second chance. We deeply apologize to everyone for the day before and take full responsibility for what happened. Check out our plan, Fantastic 2.0, where we share how we'll fix our past mistakes and are preparing to return better. Now, what they are calling
Trust
their
us, guys.
plan for recovery is presented as a PDF that looks a lot like a sales pitch meant for investors. I mean, it even has a cover letter page and everything. The first
They
actual
copied
page of content is titled...
What I love so much is how blatantly they copied Twitch's logo. Like, look at that shit and tell me that is not just Twitch's logo. Like, I'm pretty sure they stole and used the same font as the Twitch logo, right? Like, is that not just the Twitch font? Here, let me bring up Twitch's logo. Let's compare them. Twitch logo. It's pretty fucking close, dude. It's not the exact same font. You can see, like, the I, for example, is different. And the T is caps. Like, they're using all caps, and the Twitch logo uses all lowercase. But, like, particularly these they flipped it so it's to the left. These slant to the left. These slant to the right. And here it's a full block, except for on the bottom. And here it's blocked, but it follows the line of text. So Twitch has a better logo. It's just a better designed logo. But they're copying the Twitch logo. See, everything they do, it is imitating the aesthetic of successful things. Like, even if you don't recognize it as, oh, it looks like the Twitch logo, or confuse it for being Twitch or something, it feels like they're just using marketing tactics that have worked for other people, and they hope it works for them.
I mean, it even has a cover letter page and everything. The first actual page of content is titled Fantastic 2.0 Principles, and it consists of 3 main bullet points that they want to show you represents their new plan for the future. This is going to be honesty, transparency, and professionalism. I kid you not. Those are the 3 pillars. Those 3 pillars, quite literally, the inverse of everything that they've done up until this point. But okay, this is a rebrand.
The reason why this all rings so hollow among many other things is that they're just repeating the same song and dance as what they said when they were defending themselves from claims that the game looked fishy before it released. They're always like, we want to fight against misinformation. Oh, we're just all about creative. They did this like toxic positivity, like cringe over the top, like ooh woo vibe they went for that felt so fake and corporate. They're doing it again. It's the same song and dance. It's just as disingenuous, and it feels that way. No one's falling for it. Clearly, it's all bots that have supported the Kickstarter and are playing this demo, and evidently, the merch isn't even sold out. It's probably just fake FOMO, like, oh yeah, totally, this is sold out. Yeah, we've just got so many sales, and it's like, who's buying it? They're not sold out. There's no way they're actually sold out of merch. Not any way in hell.
Brand after all, so let's hear what they have to say of their new vision for the future. Starting with honesty, they say from now on, our development and marketing will be based on the principle of honesty. That from now on part an important distinction. First, we commit to building trust within our community through direct and honest communication. From now on, we commit to openly communicating the challenges we face without concealing any details, like how they denied knowing about the Day Before's trademark dispute prior to the game being pulled from Steam, when they did in fact know months prior, but they lied when everything went down, saying that they actually decided to remove the game from Steam themselves because they wanted to keep working on it, but that wasn't actually true. As we later learned, Valve took down the game due to a trademark dispute.
They've been caught in countless lies. That was a big thing too. Up until the release of the game, they've been caught in numerous lies where they said a thing was going on and then claimed a different thing. Like, went back on their word multiple times, and it's like, what? But you said, why are you changing the story? They did this frequently, which was really fishy. And on top of that, they got outright evidentially called out in their lies, such as when the Day Before was taken down off of Steam, and they claimed it was due to a Steam bug, and then it was revealed it was taken down by Steam due to a copyright dispute, and they lied to us. You know, they just kept lying. Undeniably lying. Like, not like, oh, it's a matter of opinion if they lied, but objectively lying. And no game company who isn't trying to scam you is going to make a habit of that much dishonesty. It was so fishy.
Fantastic had over the name the Day Before.
The only reason, by the way, this is such a big story, the fact that this ended up being a scam is such a big deal. Maybe to you guys, in hindsight, it looks obvious, but people desperately wanted this game to be real. Even I, who was like 90% sure it was a scam, was still eagerly ready, like excited when I woke up the day the game was supposed to come out, because I hoped that I was wrong and that it was real. And I'm not happy that I was right about it being a scam. I wish I was wrong. But, you know, people were so hopeful. Even a lot of the naysayers still bought and played it on release, hoping that they were wrong and that it was real.
Dispute that they received notice of due to public record. We know this at least some 6 months prior to the events happening. This line here seems to be just them acknowledging that deception. They're saying, yes, we have not been open with the challenges that we face. We've lied about them. That's what they're saying here. That's why they're committing to honesty, because they haven't been honest before. And then the final bullet point in this section says, all aspects of our marketing will remain clear, transparent, and free from embellishments, like all of the embellishments they made around the Day Before, what kind of game it was, how it looked, all those vertical slice trailers that turned out to be not even remotely representative of the final product. And
There's no setting like this. A lot of the gameplay shows like open country areas, so like you're driving through like dirt roads or next to a river or a lake or through like a wooded road out in the middle of nowhere, like by a gas station, as you've seen in some of this gameplay. No settings like that in the final game. Nothing but a small, invisible wall barriered, not designed for the movement mechanics of the game because it was ripped off of an asset store city. Just that little city portion you've seen some bits of, and just a few blocks, like maybe 8 square blocks, I would say. Like 8 by 8 square blocks, which is a pretty big map, but not the enormous open world, with only part of it being a big city that they advertised. Like, this is the gameplay that they showed off, like driving vehicles through insane mud in the middle of nowhere, right?
I'm not just talking about the visual downgrade here. That's something we've seen from a lot of development studios. I'm talking about the game's mechanics, the enemy density, the systems and features. Just
Straight
what
up
the game
lying,
was
yep.
that they were showing in those trailers was nothing like what they released, because those were never actually recordings
There's
of
a
a
farm.
real game. They were
Nothing like that. Yeah, this is obviously not even representative of the game, because this is like not even close to the final graphics. They massive graphical downgrade from any of the trailers, but this little like gas station area, nothing like this in the final
showing
game.
in those trailers was nothing like what they released, because
No big sprawling like countryside farm area like this in this trailer. Nothing like this. Certainly not this. Ended up being in the game.
those were never
The
actually
game,
recordings
quote
of
unquote.
a real game. They were recordings of vertical slices that were just built solely for those trailers. That game didn't exist. Those vertical slice in-engine walkthroughs did, but that was it. That was never actually the real game, as we saw when the game was actually released. And then they've got the transparency section, which reads much the same. It says, "We understand the mistakes and absence of past communications. We commit to ensuring transparency in development and openly providing honest and comprehensive information." And then finally, they've got the professionalism section, which says, "We are transitioning from a volunteer-driven approach to one firmly rooted in professionalism." And of course, here in this section, they are referencing their prior proud proclamations of being a company that was volunteer-based, running on the support and the labor of unpaid developers, essentially, like their version of interns. Literally, all of this is them saying, we won't do everything we've done up until this point. The next page in the PDF lays out their strategic objectives throughout the course of the next year. These include
Man, there was somebody who put together a video showing like all of their marketing and what games, movies, and other media they had stolen and recreated shot for shot from other media that's popular for their advertising. Literally every frame and shot of their advertising was ripped from something else or recreated by them from something else. And it just, once you've noticed a few and you start digging, you find out everything is like that. There's just not even a shred of originality to anything they do. And it's so bizarre. It's the entire situation is bizarre and enraging because the idea of this game was so promising. So promising. Anyway, I feel like we've watched enough of Force Gaming's video to get like the basics of what's happening with this company. But they've returned. If you don't know, when the game came out, Steam refunded everybody, and they took the company down off of the market. And then on top of that, apparently Fantastic didn't get any money from the sales of the day before. Supposedly, they didn't get a single payout. So, best case scenario is the two brothers that are the head developers and owners of Fantastic walked away empty-handed from this scam and are now desperately returning to try and make even the slightest amount of profit off of the grift they ran and into the ground almost a year ago. They couldn't even wait a full year to come back after that, too. That's the weird thing. You'd think they'd wait a year, a solid year, but they waited almost a year and thought it'd be long enough for the internet to forget. Let's just hope the whole fiasco has sent the message to AAA and indie game studios that we need a well-made, feature-complete, polished, open-world sandbox zombie survival game simply centered around the idea of running around, gathering gear, fighting other players or allying with other players and building up a base in just a random place on the map. That is what we want. That is what we as the gamers yearn for, the zombie apocalypse. Just give us a world where we can LARP The Walking Dead. Please. Game devs, gaming industry, massive publishers, just give us that. That is what we need. And make it well polished. For God's sakes. No breaking legs when opening doors like DayZ. Anyway, if you enjoyed this segment, even though it's a little different than my usual stuff, not super political or anything, then please consider leaving a like. No matter when, where, or what you're watching from me, every thumbs up you drop on my stuff actually forces YouTube to push my content in the algorithm, and it really, really helps a lot, especially because, you know, YouTube's not too friendly with lefty content. It doesn't really promote it all that much. So your likes help a ton, as do your comments down below, which I also just like reading as well, on top of how they help the videos in the channel. And subscribe and ring the bell icon if you haven't already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And of course, follow my social medias, linked down below in the description if you want to see more from me on other platforms, and join my fan Discord if you want to get notified when I go live or upload new videos. And don't forget, if you want to support me directly, maybe, you know, help me keep the lights on and the roof above my head, consider financially supporting me by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch at the Streamlabs link down below. With all that said, thank you so much for watching this segment, and I hope to see you again.